Hello and welcome back to Hedgy English, a place where you can listen to English in a natural way. And so today I wanted to take a look at some idioms that are pretty common in English. What are idioms? Idioms are sayings or phrases, things people say that if you try to understand them based on the definitions of the words, you will have difficulty. They don't mean what they seem to mean. They have a special meaning that you have to just memorize. You have to know. An example, the first one, is a dime a dozen. So the word a dime is a coin. In the US, it's worth 10 cents. So $1 is 100 cents, and a dime is 10 cents. It's a small coin. And dozen. This already requires some knowledge. A dozen is 12 of something. Very often we buy eggs or package eggs by the dozen. You buy a dozen eggs or a half dozen eggs. A dozen is 12 and a half dozen is 6. So, a dime a dozen. If you think about that, you go 10 cents, 12 eggs. Okay, yeah, sure. Is that a sales price? But it turns out that what we mean when we say a dime a dozen is that something is very, very common. Something is it's usual. So for example, if you imagine a woman who went on a bad date, she's talking to her friends, and she said, "Yeah, it was terrible. He was so boring, and he bragged a lot. He liked to talk about himself and how great he was, and he never listened to me." And her friend says to her, "Men like that are a dime a dozen." A dime a dozen means they're very common. She's saying that there are men like that everywhere, all over. So what else could be a dime a dozen? Hot weather in Southeast Asia, hot days. Really hot days are a dime a dozen. I'm in Southeast Asia now, and I can tell you those hot days are very common. They are a dime a dozen. Next, let's look at another idiom. This is an idiom that I like to teach, but I don't know. I guess it's common, but I don't hear it that often. But I like it. To beat around the bush. Literally, beat. That could be many things. Usually, to beat is to hit someone. It's usually to physically harm someone without them harming you back. So sometimes parents, they hit their children. We would say they beat their children. It's not a fight, because a fight requires two sides. A fight is two sides where there's some possible fighting back. But a beating, to beat someone, that's one-sided. Or to beat is also metaphoric usage in a contest, in a competition. The red team beat the blue team. It means to win. So to beat around the bush. What is a bush? It's a plant. It's kind of like the top of a tree, but if it was on the ground. You'll see a picture of it in this video, I'm sure. But yeah, usually in America, a lot of people's lawns, the grass in front of their house, there are also bushes. They're smaller than trees, but bigger than normal small plants. And so to beat around the bush, well, it's physical damage or winning something, and a plant. So what does it mean? If you guessed to avoid saying what you mean, then you are correct. If you beat around the bush, and then there's something that you have in your mind, and you want to express it, you want to say it, but you don't want to say it directly. You don't want to say it openly. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're nervous. You're worried. The other person will disagree. So you kind of say it. You hint at it. You say little parts, but you don't say it directly. You don't say it openly. That's to beat around the bush. Saying it directly makes you uncomfortable. What could be a situation where someone beats around the bush? For example, I will use dating metaphors because they're easy and we understand them we can identify, or they're emotional even. So to beat around the bush, maybe I invite someone out. I invite some girl out, and she says yes. And I'm like, that's great. I'll pick you up. I'll come by my motorcycle. You get on the back. We'll ride. It's gonna be great. I'm so excited. This girl, she's wonderful. I like her so much. And then the day, a few hours before I'm supposed to pick her up, she starts texting me. I get messages, and she goes, "Hey, how's it going?" And I say, "Pretty good. Looking forward to tonight." And she says, "How's it?" "Okay, great. The weather looks a little bad. Are you sure it's not gonna rain? I really don't like to go out when it rains." And I go, "Well, no, it's not a problem. I mean, we can change our plans. We'll go somewhere else if it rains." And she goes, "Yeah, and I know I have work tomorrow morning." And at some point, I understand. She doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to go out, but she doesn't want to say it directly, probably because she knows or she thinks it would hurt my feelings. It would make me feel bad. So she doesn't say it. She says these other things which lead me in that direction, but doesn't say it openly. She is beating around the bush. Probably because she either cares about my feelings or she doesn't want to feel bad, or many other reasons. To beat around the bush. Maybe somebody gets a job, or they try to get a job somewhere, and they want to work at their friend's company, and the friend has a partner, and the friend and the partner interview the person, and after the interview, a couple days later, the person goes to their friend and they're like, "Great, I can't wait to work with you." And the person goes, the situation is really complicated. We have a lot of candidates, a lot more people. Things might change. We don't really know how much money we have for another person right now. And the person says, "Stop beating around the bush. If I didn't get the job, if you don't want to hire me, just tell me directly." So that's 2 idioms we looked at. We looked at a dime a dozen for something very common, something typical, and to beat around the bush for something, or for when someone is avoiding saying something. They are speaking indirectly about something that makes them uncomfortable. And let's look at one more. This one is to bite the bullet. So let's break it down literally. What do the words mean if you look them up in the dictionary. So to bite, that's literally when you eat something. I take an apple, go out to the apple tree, take an apple. Always have to rub it on your shirt for some reason. And then you bite it. Not chew. That's to chew, but you just bite. So that's to bite. And a bullet is the thing where you have a gun. You shoot, and what comes out of the gun? A bullet. It's the ammunition of a gun. So to bite the bullet, literally, you bullet from a gun. Probably doesn't taste good. Probably not healthy. So that's the literal meaning. What does it mean metaphorically in reality? What do we mean when we say it? To bite the bullet is to do something that you don't want to do, but just to get it over with. There's this thing that I know it's going to be bad. Maybe I was supposed to do it yesterday, but I keep putting it off. Now I need to do it. I go, fine, I'll bite the bullet and do it. Actually, so it reminds me, when I was a child, I hated showing up to class late. Actually, it's funny because I often showed up to class late, but I hated walking in the room. So imagine class starts at 8:30 in the morning. I'm 12 years old or something, and it starts at 8:30, and I get to school around 8:45. I overslept, I'm tired, I'm late, and I put my stuff in my locker. The little thing, the place where you put your things when you're in class. I put my stuff in my locker and I walk to class, and I see my classroom and the door is closed, and I know I'm late, and I know when I get to the door, I'll open it and I'll walk into the classroom, and everyone in the room is gonna look at me. Every person in that room will turn and see who it is and look at me. And the teacher, who is probably talking, will stop talking. Maybe not. And look at me. And there will be a pause where I am the center of attention. And that feeling just freaked me out. I really didn't like it. It would make me very anxious to imagine it. And so there were times where I would just stand at the door and go, I don't want to go in. I don't want to go in. And I would get more late, and I don't want to go in. Sometimes I would even go home and get a worse punishment, or just wait until the next class and get a worse punishment than just the original lateness, because I hated it. And so that caused some problems. And eventually, of course, the answer is to stop being late. But eventually, I told myself, you have to bite the bullet. It feels bad to walk in there late. It feels bad for some reason, but you just have to do it. You're avoiding it. You don't want to. It's making things worse. You just have to bite the bullet. Another example, I have to clean my house. Everything's messy. I don't want to do it. I hate cleaning. It's a lot of work. It takes time. I want to watch a movie. I was supposed to do it yesterday. I got to do it today. If I don't do it today, tomorrow I have people coming over my house. It's going to look terrible. So I just tell myself, you got to bite the bullet. You have to do this thing you don't want to do, because it's better. If you keep putting it off, things will be worse. You have to bite the bullet. And so those are 3 idioms that we looked at today, or we have looked at today. First, a dime a dozen. something very, very common. To beat around the bush, which is to avoid saying something that makes you uncomfortable. And to bite the bullet, which is to do something, finally, that makes you uncomfortable. In a way, you could use the last two together. If someone beats around the bush, they're not saying what they want to or what they think they should. And then finally, they're like, no, I have to say it. And they bite the bullet and they say it. So that is good for today. As always, thanks for watching. It's great. Please like, share, subscribe. Join the Patreon if you can, if you want. Donate anything you would like if you can, if you want. Everything helps, and I am very grateful for it. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.